Patriots have plenty of room for growth after the last few years. 25-25 over the last 3 regular seasons. No playoff wins in the last 4. Last season, ranked 26th in offense. This season's projection, according to Vegas, total of 7.5. I would say bury the over, but I'm not really one to give that kind of advice. 5,000 plus 5,000 odds to win the Super Bowl. So Phil, back here at Patriots Hall of Fame, presented by Raytheon. Let's listen to what the Patriots have to say about their leadership going into this year.
I mean, it's not good enough, and I think we know that there's guys here that have won championships and know what that looks like. We're competitive, right? And you don't want to be sitting there watching people win, and you don't want to be going here on Sunday and having to deal with losing. I mean, it ain't. At the end of the day, you play the game to win, and if you don't, it's not fun. Winning is fun. That's what makes this game fun. So that's what we're going to try to do, and that's what you do all this for. That's what you work all year for, not just to go out there and kind of slap it against the wall. So that's what we're going to try to do.
The expectation here is for us to be winners and to be competitive every year. And for those of us who've been here for any number of time, we have not enjoyed this past couple of seasons. It hasn't been fun for us. Football is a lot more fun when you're winning, and that's no mystery. So I think everybody in that locker room wants to win, right? And but we've got to be willing to do what it takes to win, because everybody in the league wants to win, but everybody's not willing to do what it takes. So we've got to find ways to do the little things that are going to give us an opportunity to be competitive on game days.
None of that stuff matters. You got to focus on what matters at the moment. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on, speaking on the past, speaking on the future, but none of that matters. You just got to be where your feet are, and that's pretty much the message. That's pretty much my message at all times, is you got to just focus on the main thing.
All right, those are 3 of the Patriots' most prominent leaders, Phil. Certainly Slater, Andrews, and Juwan Bentley has assumed a greater role in that position. But these are guys, all of whom spoke last year during an 8-9 season about leadership, about being on the details, about giving that extra. And they did it repeatedly. And this team was still plagued by mistakes and plagued by errors. How does this group, who returns and has proven itself as a good group of leaders, get more guys working behind them and pulling on the oar at the same pace?
It starts with those leaders setting the standard early, right now, tomorrow, first practice. And I find it interesting that we are having the kinds of conversations that we're having now, and that those players are speaking the way that they're speaking, because they know, even though they won 8 games last year, they weren't a really good team. They weren't even really close to a really good team. They were 1-6 against playoff teams last year, and the playoff team that they beat was quarterbacked by Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson. This year, according to Vegas, they're going to play 12 games against teams that are projected to be borderline playoff teams, over 500. So they need to make a significant leap, and it's going to have to start early for them. They have the toughest schedule in the NFL. They have one of the toughest early season schedules in the NFL, and it starts with these guys letting them know that there is some urgency starting as early as late July.
It's funny because you look at this team and they have the toughest schedule, yet they don't have exceptional playmakers. They don't have players who you would say that's one of the 5-10 best players at his position, except for perhaps Matthew Judon, perhaps Ramondre Stevenson. So they're going to have to be greater than the sum of their parts. The individual, the whole team collective, as Bill Belichick used to say, the strength of the wolf is in the pack. And the first time I ever heard that quote was 2001. And that team certainly was. Now, defensively, the Patriots cobbled together touchdowns last year. Special teams-wise, they cobbled together touchdowns last year. It was offense, where they averaged 18.5 points per game. And I think there was a lack of buy-in and leadership on the offensive side of the ball that started with the coaches. How much of a leader can Bill O'Brien be and Adrian Clem as well in getting them on their details?
Oh, I think they're both going to be huge. I think Clem in particular is somebody that we should pay attention to, because there's so much conversation paid to Bill O'Brien, and deservingly so. But the offensive line really, really struggled last year. You think of this team, okay, the passing game wasn't great. Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, that didn't go well. We know about Mac Jones' statistical struggles. They struggled mightily statistically in the run game when it comes to expected point points added, their success rate on early downs. They were one of the worst running football teams in the NFL, due in large part to their offensive line, in my opinion. Tom, they also were a bottom 10 team in terms of penalties last year. That's something we're not used to saying about the Patriots. Why? Due in large part to the offensive line. Trent Brown was 3rd in the league in flags against him. Isaiah Wynn had 9 in 9 games. Adrian Clem is going to be charged with cleaning a lot of that up and making sure that the overall operation offensively is much more smooth.
A significant number of them, too, were pre-snap penalties, unforced errors, not holds, not dealing with, somebody tearing off the edge. It was simple focus or lack of focus, perhaps caused in some ways by the lack of cohesion on the offense. Meanwhile, defensively, who steps into the leadership position that Devin McCourty leaves a void at?
It's Juwan Bentley. And Juwan Bentley has already shared some of that quote-unquote voice of the defense stuff that McCourty has had for years and years and years. But he's going to have to take on an even bigger role. I think John Jones's voice is going to have to get louder in the secondary in particular. He's somebody who's played just about every position there is in the secondary, inside, outside, safety as well. And so when it comes to getting that group communicating on the same level, he's going to be absolutely massive. I just don't know, Tom, if they're ever going to be able to replace, number one, the speed that Devin McCourty brought to the field. That's going to impact them X's and O's wise and the things they can do schematically, but also just the emotional leadership. Bentley, I think, brings some of that. John Jones could and maybe will do more. But McCourty really came into his own, 5-6 years ago and really, I think, reveled in the opportunity that he had as that emotional leader.
It's funny, too, because, and we've had the opportunity to work with him extensively, both Mayo and McCourty on Quick Slants and a variety of other shows. And there's a sense of humor that they brought and enjoyment at their job that I'm sure was even multiplied when they're actually doing work in their chosen field of football. The Patriots need to have a good time. They need to have somebody who's got that enjoyment factor, the way Vrabel did, Bruschi did, Wilfork did, the way Mayo did, the way McCourty did. And somebody on that group, they can't all say, well, I'm kind of a quiet leader. I like to lead by example. I think Judon fills that role. I think Dietrich Wise fills that role. I'm curious to see who in the back end does that. I would love to see Kyle Duggar assume a more vocal role because he has to be somebody that you can build around. And to me, Kyle Duggar is one of those players. Plus, to help out a young guy like Christian Gonzalez, to make him feel at home. Who's going to be responsible for that in the secondary, making him feel at home and ready to go?
Well, I think luckily for Gonzalez, he's going to be on the outside, and I would assume, ain't going to be moving him all that much. And so your responsibility should be pretty clear-cut when you're that boundary guy. You're a man-to-man, you've got the guy across from you. Even when you're in zone, okay, you've got this deep third, okay, you're squatting in this short to, hook to curl area or this flat area. So his responsibility should be relatively limited, Tom. I think he's going to have to step in, play right away, and play well right away because he has a unique physical skill set that they're going to need week one.
You're going to love to watch him. You are going to love your Christian Gonzalez when you roll yourself down Route 1, pull into Foxborough Stadium, nay Foxborough Stadium, now Gillette Stadium.